Okay. TGIF. It is Friday, September the 20th, 2024, and that is Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms Auto Hoax, or GTFO, although you're welcome to stay. But we cannot be responsible for what happens to your worldview, your feelings, or your decision on whether or not you want to vote. Because I don't take part in the mind war. I'm not advocating any political party, and we're not partisan. The default for conspiracy theorists has always been right. They go right, and mainstream news is considered to be the official version, even though it's just as conspiratorial and baseless as anything on the other side. So what I'm trying to do is separate from the conspiracy theory realm of discourse because it's been grafted onto the GOP. It's like a fringe of the GOP. It's become a voter base that they can depend upon. So this year, I plan to not just non-participation, but I have to go further. So I will be destroying my vote publicly in the face of truth or veil by voting for the other side, Harris, and Tim Walz, who reminds me of Pennywise the Clown. And I'm doing so because I want to make a statement about non-participation. And if you are participating, I'd like to know why, on what grounds. And now I understand team sports, participation, the theater of it all, it's fun. So if you're doing it for fun, I get it. But other than that, what's your excuse? Today, another day, another attempt. White House officials told Jack Posobiec that Trump's Doylestown event was pulled due to Secret Service concerns over the event at the shrine in the wake of the last two attempts. We were live earlier today for a little while. I was painting. We were talking about the two shooters and how they each have the connection to the Batman franchise. The Thomas Crooks is basically the Riddler. He's been called an enigma, and Enigma is the Riddler's name, and he looks like a young Riddler. This last shooter matches up with the Joker archetype, laughing as he's arrested, laughing as he's having the charges read, and he doesn't have green hair, but it's yellow and blue, so it makes green. And we were talking about the Joker archetype coming out, Joker 2, timed with Beetlejuice 2, another Joker-esque character with green hair. So what's going on here? And then 10/4, October the 4th, Joker 2 comes out. And that date is likely to be significant for a few reasons, as we've been unpacking what all this symbolism is leading to, what all this foreshadowing. And it's foreshadowing. It's best to look at predictive programming as foreshadowing, as a literary technique. Instead of getting lost going down this path of it's the universe dropping hints about what's about to happen, we've already dealt with that. And my main argument against it is that the universe, one, it's kind of a divine fallacy. I can't explain it, so I will ascribe it to a higher power. Now that's already wrong. But second, would the universe drop clues about future fake events? That's the part that makes no sense. Okay, I cranked up the volume to 100. It seems like whenever I leave the studio here, the gremlins come in and turn it down. Mizell says, I saw an article that the first violin played in space was made in Albuquerque. Interesting. Well, New Mexico has the spaceport. Yes, Ted Stryker, the Auto Hoaxology 101, the Auto Hoax Con, is going to be a virtual event. There will be some people here in person that I'm inviting for purposes of debate, discussion, discourse, and observation, as well as our documentary crew, which is so far a cinematographer and possibly a local journalist who will be doing some interview format style for the debates, doing some interviews. But we want to do this sort of not like Joe Rogan, but two people sitting across the table having a conversation. I kind of like that format, and it can go somewhere. But we're going to be having more of these events. Auto Hoax Con has to happen now before anybody co-ops it. Look what they did to the flat earth question. Look what they do to every conspiracy theory or every alternative way of assessing what the mainstream gives us. So there are no gatekeepers. There's no guardrailers. There aren't any popular influencers among what we're doing. Media skepticism at this level. We're not supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be happy with the red pills and the hopium and the breadcrumbs and the Kool-Aid and the current things and the cult of personality they've built around Trump. But I'm not into any of that, and I don't think anyone else here is either. And we are creating the third branch of media, a third branch meaning outside of main and alt, we have another platform for people who aren't Psywar, I guess mind war casualties, Psywar casualties. In other words, we're not falling for it. We're not triggered. You know, there are still people, a lot of people, wondering about the second shooter. There are still people wondering about the deep state and the DHS and what are they going to do to Trump. It's like, no, this is all theater. It's not an oversimplification. I'm not generalizing. Trump is an actor in a psyop. Trump is a psyop. I mean, that's the thing that Trutherville isn't getting. And that's why I opened up by saying that I'm not participating in the charade. I'm not lining up behind agitators and provocateurs and liars in high places. And most of these liars are clueless. They're just as programmed. Like I wonder, like I look at someone like Candace Owens or Laura Loomer or Jack Posobiec, if they're not completely in the know and wittingly taking part in mass deception operations, perception management stunts, if they're not in the know, then they've got to be the most insulated, gullible, perhaps controlled people out there. And I think that is the case. I think that the programmers are programmed just as the regular masses are. But they're selectively allowed to know certain things in order to do their jobs. A. Newful says, aren't you a popular influenza? Yeah, let's look at that. So if you go back to The Economist, Winter Solstice 2017, The Economist cover, like Time, and like everything from The Atlantic, The Economist cover 2017 Winter Solstice said China and its new sharp power. And I'm like, wait, sharp power? Now, look at the whole headline here. It actually says the new shape of Chinese influence, sharp power. And this is basically a COVID ball. I mean, it's a globe. It's red where China is. But if you can imagine the whole thing spray painted red, like if China spread everywhere, well, then what would you have? You would have a COVID ball. And it says the new shape, well, new shape as in novel corona, of Chinese influence, as in influenza. And when you talk about influence in social media, it's been connected with this whole concept of mind viruses and the flow of mind viruses through society and the need to mitigate it. So mind flu. We're like basically, if you're an influencer, you're spewing mind flu from the perspective of the mainstream. If you're countering them, if you're a conspiracy theorist, and that's what they're trying to get rid of, mind viruses. But again, the new shape of Chinese influenza. And they've used 2020 and the pandemic model to train the public on thought crime prevention, on thought crime decontamination, and mind vaxing. Mind vaxing is the next thing. Internet quarantining. It's all happening as we speak. But this was the setup. They went from safe spaces to social distancing and quarantining to safe spaces again, but for different reasons. In other words, the original safe spaces were on college campuses to protect students from right-wing ideas, mind viruses. Then we had the lockdowns to protect us from the physical virus. Following this, we learned you have to continue to quarantine against the people who don't comply because of their mind viruses will cause you to catch the real virus, the physical one. So they walked us through this whole process and we're trained. The public has been trained. I see there's a lot of that happening. Entertainment is actually a form of entrainment. It's not entertainment, it's entrainment. And they're entraining you to future news events. I would posit that Fallout, the series, is a PSA designed to prepare us for bunker life, lockdown life. I would even add to that, Fly Me to the Moon, a PSA. Yeah, we faked the moon landing, but we don't want to get any flack. We don't want to be looked at as criminals or deceptive. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a movie, a rom-com, where we make a joke about it. Yeah, we faked the moon landing, but we had to trick the Russians. You can be proud of that. So that's another thing. And they're probably going to reveal that as the truth. When the last of the Apollo 11 astronauts passes, they'll probably say, yeah, we had to fake it, and these guys were heroes for beating the Russians in the mind war. And this narrative protects the live outer space, the space station, and becoming multiplanetary and all the rest. In fact, Joe Rogan did a total 180 flip, as we've been talking about. He did a full flip. He's back. At first, he figured out the moon landing was a hoax. Then they twisted his arm, and he's like, of course it's not. Well, now he's back. But it's only allowed at this point because Fly Me to the Moon helped people understand it and why they should take pride in it. Interestingly, Matt Walsh said he would believe the moon landing is a hoax because at first he ripped on people. He said, this is the greatest American achievement. If you don't believe in the moon landing, you're a godless communist and you should get out of my country. And he got a lot of flack for that. They attacked him all over Twitter. So here he is conceding that Joe Rogan has a point. But he said he wouldn't believe it unless he sees some documentation or evidence, or if Elon Musk says the moon landing is fake. So he's waiting for Daddy Elon to tell him what to think, which is funny if you think about it. X, he buys this big social media. I've been saying that the space popes, that the space program, ultimately it's about controlling the inner space, the space between your ears, your mind space, your world view. And here we have Matt Walsh, top tier right-wing influencer, saying, I won't believe this unless Elon Musk tells me to. Now, he did say he would need evidence, but we have that. Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick provides a lot of evidence about the nature of entertainment media and its role in training the masses to future fake events, about news bending. We have the evidence. Predictive programming exists. If you say it doesn't, you are a reality denialist. Mike Rothschild, reality denialist. Clueless, schizoid break from objective reality. We're not suffering from that problem. Auto hoaxers, media skeptics, we have to be the only objectivists in the world, as I've said many times, because objectivism was always filtered through mainstream lies. It lost. I mean, right at the starting line, you have this new philosophy, and right from the starting gate, it went through the reality wood chipper that we call the mainstream media filter. Okay, so let's see. Go through your comments. We've got Ted Striker 2112, Portal Complex, Thirst for Truth, Messianic Charlatan, Quays, Copaesthetic, Dinah South, Leo Pirate says it's Trumpomania, brother. Yeah, what's going to happen? You know, J.D. Vance was saying that if Trump wins, the left is going to have a violent insurrection. All right, moving on. Joined by Aline Dion, NDB, Matt X. Yeah, Esteban, thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm also late. I'm an hour late. I was working on a painting, but I'm going to have a lot more time in the future, like a ridiculous amount of time for this. I'm restructuring my entire life, at least my schedule, and I want to maintain this morning, evening, morning deprogram and evening. It's just very effective, and I get a lot more done. And I find that if I put a video out in the morning seeking comments, I have a lot of feedback to bounce off of later in the day. So let's go ahead and scroll through the notes. We covered a lot of ground yesterday. Today's day 2 of my debate with this glurf who refuses to realize that there is a difference between these two faces. So if you look at these two faces, now this isn't two different individuals. The one on the left looks kind of like a sumo wrestler, and the one on the right, this is the same guy. This is Butch. This is the guy who's stuck in space. But you'll notice at the beginning of the video, his face was relaxed. You could see his cheekbones. You see those cheekbones? Slightly sunken cheeks. His hair's kind of, I don't know, normal. Eyes relaxed, kind of smiling. And then look at the picture on the left. What happened is he did a flip. So now he's standing up. But the trick is that he's upside down now. And if you want to understand the trickery on the ISS, a lot of the stuff is performed in the same way that Christopher Nolan did the special effects in Inception, where they had a rotating stage and they were able to simulate zero-G with no wires. They may not have wires. We may be looking at something like a teeter-totter, where they have a brace, it's holding them, and you can't see the brace, but it has an arm. and a counterbalance, and it simulates 0G along with a lot of hairspray. But if you look on the picture on the left, same guy, where are his cheekbones? Why are his eyes nearly swollen shut from the bottom? And what's that vein in the middle of his forehead? Is it an alien from beneath his skin about to pop out? And look at his hair, it's fanned out. How did this happen in 3 seconds? And to me, he looks embalmed. And, I was an embalmer for a few years, and one of the things that we were trained to do is monitor for clots. Because if you didn't know, don't listen to anti-vaxxers. Every body is full of clots. And this is because by the time you get to the embalming table, your blood is congealed. You have a forceps inserted into the jugular for the express purpose of maintaining the drainage and plucking out massive clots. And there's all these rumors, the clot shot, and the anti-vaxxers are like, oh, this isn't supposed to be. And it's like, no, those are crisis actor embalmers. They've never done it for real. They're lying. And I could go into it even in more detail. If somebody suddenly dies, they're not going to be given a 1-point injection where you're going to see clots. It's going to be an autopsy, which severs all the major arteries, so you have a 6-point injection. Clots aren't an issue. So their whole premise falls apart. But anyway, if there's a clot and you don't pull it out, or if you don't have adequate drainage rate commensurate with how much embalming fluid you're injecting in, the bodies can swell. And the guy on the left looks embalmed. It looks like the embalmer didn't know what he was doing and he pumped a little too much fluid. So I'm just saying there's a difference between these two pictures to my eyes. But we're on day 2 of a debate. Me and Synchromorpheus are debating this guy named Stanley, who is trying to tell us that there is no difference between these two pictures. So he kind of raises the bar, and he starts providing other shots, and we get into this back and forth. And then I noticed something. Behind the astronaut's head on this 41-minute video, there's a black dot. And this black dot moves over the course of the video back and forth, not quite like a pendulum, but it's just kind of there above his head. But it's certainly within a range, as in it's not floating away, it's not going up, it's not going down, it's behaving as though it's on a rope or a string. So what I think we might have here is a glitch. But whatever it is, it's an anomaly. You've never had some random object floating around inside the ISS that wasn't an augmented virtual reality artifact. So this is a glitch that I found, and he wasn't able to explain it. And I come across various things like this. For example, when the EAS, the European agency, the ESA, the European Space Agency, when they do the ISS footage, they actually have a shadow, a dot on the Earth to correspond to the ISS. You would not have a shadow that is dark, that is visible from 300 miles away with something the size of the space station. I did the math on it. I looked at it closely, and technically there would be a shadow, but it wouldn't be perceptible. You wouldn't perceive it, but you wouldn't see it from space as a black dot the size of a city. So I called this out, and Red Rhetoric, who blocked me on Twitter, said, oh, that's just a smudge on the camera. Then I realized that's not a camera lens. That's not a physical camera lens recording the Earth. It's actually a camera view within a 3D environment created in a computer. And from their alignments, that is where the shadow would be, but it was not supposed to be there. It was just an embellishment. But they said it was a smudge. So I look through other examples and I start digging, and I find many more examples of the ISS having a shadow only with the ESA. NASA doesn't do it. JAXA doesn't do it. JAXA has their own problems. The Chinese space station looks like what would happen if you ordered the ISS on Wish. I was expecting an upgrade. Yeah, Veingate, Frank Murr. We'll call it Veingate. Okay, let's see here. Anilva laughs at the left Civil War. Well, what was the movie Civil War about? It was Trump in office, there's a civil war, and they go into the White House and they take him out. So this is significant considering that Civil War was directed by the author of 28 Days Later. So we have the mind virus, 28 Days Later, the rage virus associated with the right wing or whoever catches it, but they've introduced it. It's going to hit. There's going to be another mind virus similar to what we saw after the George Floyd event. And it could be tied to the election. And the Civil War movie does have this script. And they do specify that they want a black woman to shoot him. Like, that's just exactly what happened in Fallout. The drop of blood on the side of the Trump figurine on the foosball table, courtesy of Betty Pearson, another Kamala Harris representative. A. Newellful says, how would mind vaccines work? Guardrails, implanted guardrails. Perhaps AI would help. They're already talking about using AI to deprogram conspiracy theorists. Like, you could spend a few moments with an AI chatbot. Here it is. This AI chatbot gets conspiracy theorists to question their theories. Meet DebunkBot to combat conspiracy theories. Now, the problem with this is it considers mainstream to be true, alternative and conspiracy to be false. And we all know the issue with this. It's subjective. So here we have from The Hill, DebunkBot is designed to engage users who believe in conspiracy theories, and a recent study determined that after brief conversations, belief in conspiracies decreased by 20%. Now, was it Nikki Haley who said that for every 30 minutes on TikTok, you become 17% more anti-Semitic? I love how they have these measurements. So you could watch TikTok for half an hour, talk to DebunkBot for 20 minutes, and then you'll be about negative 3% anti-Semitic, a little less. Maybe they'll correct some presumptions you had that you didn't know you had. But this is essentially what they're talking about. Making the internet, see, you have to realize the internet, cyberspace is a commons. And we're reaching this point where they're trying to purify the commons everywhere. One guy eating a bowl of bat soup can ruin it for everybody in the entire world. Therefore, the entire world needs to be defended against this. One guy can buy social media, can buy Twitter, and be responsible for all kinds of hateful memes and violent actions that occur as a result of whatever he allows on there. So we have to stop that. One rich person can send enough into space that they pollute it with junk that endangers the entire commons. So you see this tactic here where they're triangulating. They're getting us to all look at certain individuals as a collective and understand that, hey, this can't go on. This person must be stopped. Elon Musk is being blamed, and I've mentioned this parallel for a long time, how his disease X, that X is going to be the vector for the mind viruses, and that he's going to be credited with having destroyed the commons of cyberspace. But now they're also saying that his Starlink satellites are screwing up the skies for astronomers. Starlink satellites disrupting cosmic studies, but there are a lot of articles right now about Musk polluting the commons above. So he's the lead, propagator of mind junk, but also space junk. And they made this parallel very obvious. And this is something that we're all supposed to take as an example of why we can't let one person get too rich. BBC reported 3 days ago, Elon Musk's Starlink satellites are blocking a view of the universe. They're blinding radio telescopes and hindering astronomical research. So I have a feeling that this is going to be the reason why we don't see the incoming planet killer that takes us out. They'll blame it on Musk. But it's this whole thing of telling us the stories on multiple levels, and the commons of low Earth orbit and cyberspace both need to be protected from Musk. Zinvella says smudge vein, microgravity vein. They'll come up with an explanation for the vein. Anuful says, Tim destroying NASA with face pictures. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And these are the details that they can't change. And this is a perfect example of how people will defend their beliefs against facts. I mean, this is 2 days in a row. Some guy named Stanley, and I think it's secretly McToons. It's like a sock account. For 2 days, he's been arguing against us that there's no difference, there's no vein, that 2 plus 2 is 5, and that this guy's face isn't swollen and red like a tomato. That this is completely normal, and that, and he really just, and I don't talk to people who get into name calling, but he really leans on ad hominem. And this, what would other people think? Other people think you look stupid too. And it's like you're anonymous using ad hominem. Like that's not even, like I generally block people like that. If you're going to attack someone personally and you don't exist because you're an anon, you should just be dismissed. And what's the incentive? What's the incentive to spending your time debating or arguing with people who don't believe because evidence, because reasons? It's not like we're just saying it's fake because it feels fake, or no, we're actually pointing out specific anomalies. And he kept on saying, you didn't watch the whole video, and I did. And that's when I saw that black object floating above his head. And I think it's part of the sling. I don't know for sure. Now let's get to this. So Diddy is in jail. If you believe the story, it's this new he's going to get Epsteined. He's in the same jail where R. Kelly is, where R. Kelly made friends with Frank James. I think Sam Bankman went there. And someone shared this today. I don't know if this is true, if this is him, but it looks like him. Diddy's back tattoo depicts Haitian voodoo spirit Izili Dantor, and it sparks a wide discussion about her. She symbolizes motherhood, but also discipline and protection. So if you look at the back of P. Diddy, just look at that massive tattoo. But this might tie into something. It's kind of metascripty. So I'm going into the details. I wasn't familiar with this particular goddess, or they have different names for them. Loa, these spirits. So yeah, Loa, senior spirit of the Petro family in Haitian voodoo. So Haitian voodoo is in the news as we speak because of the whole rumors about cats and cats being eaten by Haitians and sacrifices, etc. Okay, this is the main senior spirit of the Petro family in Haitian voodoo. In Haitian mythology, there are multiple spiritual entities that work between the mortal world and the divine. So these are like saints, intercessors. And this particular class of spirits are feminine spirits that personify different aspects of womanhood. And this one is some kind of angry one, an angry woman. It says, she's capable of becoming extremely angry and vengeful to the point she's considered evil. So here's another picture of her, and then it says, it is accounted that the slave revolt of 1791 started with a pact and a feast in honor of this particular spirit. So this is where it gets interesting, because we're talking about Haitian slave rebellion. We're talking about, in this same context, Haiti being introduced into the news cycle, Haitian voodoo. And then I saw something today that really stood out to me. There was a politician, I'll see if I can get her name, and she came out in defense of Haitians and said that their religion's being mischaracterized. She was dressed all in red, and she was clearly angry. And then it reminded me that I've been watching Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn. And one of the main storylines here is you have this character called the Dragon Woman. And she is a voodoo priestess, dresses in red, and she's very much, I would say, angry. So there's some kind of a theme that's building up here. And it has to do with this connection, I think, between this movie. And again, the movie's still, the series, I haven't seen the entire thing. I'm still watching it. But there's something going on here, so I'm keeping track. But it was interesting to find a P. Diddy tie-in. Okay, moving on. 1 in 6 people think the earth is flat. A new study reveals the influenza of TikTok. Okay, again, influence. I think this word influence and influenza are used intentionally because they caught it. 1 in 6 young people have caught the flat earth mind virus. Recent study reveals among young French people aged 11 to 24 regarding the flat earth question. They say flat earth theory, it's just a question. But these findings raise questions about the influence of social media and the potential erosion of critical thinking. Now, they say that with no sense of irony, because I don't think it's critical thinking at all to say I believe it because I saw it on TV. But this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy the idea that decentralizing media is a good thing, that we need to have experts that are appointed. We need to have designated real. And this is something that's been brought up before. People can't tell, and it's going to become increasingly difficult in the future. They cannot tell between real and fake just by looking at it at screen value. So some things are going to have to be designated real because people can't tell the difference. Well, that's not critical thinking. It's not critical thinking if they need a blue check to tell them what to think. Critical thinking means at the level of the individual, they're parsing the facts of reality, and that's just not going to happen here. Okay, moving on. Yeah, okay, someone said that, Esteban, that Kim Jong-shil again. I thought the astronaut looked like Kim Jong-il when he flipped, like his hair. Dinah South says, really does resemble a cadaver. Yeah, I think the guy looks bloated. And he went from not bloated to bloated in a single movement. But this conversation has been going on for 2 full days. And these are the guys who are stuck on the ISS. So here's another picture of that same astronaut. Look at that forehead. That's carefree. This guy's happy, smiling. But I don't see a pulsing vein in the middle of his forehead. Why is that? But then here he is in space. And yeah, it's not just the bulging vein in his forehead. His cheeks, his eyes are swollen shut. But what's more likely? If we're talking about Occam's razor, what's more likely? This guy's in 0G, or they're faking it like Penn and Teller. And I can't recommend enough watching magic tricks performed by professionals like Penn and Teller. These are tricks. And if you're not considering the possibility that you're looking at a magic trick, if your base assumption is this is space, they have you. You're not critical. You're accepting it because you saw it on the screen. But as a video editor, I see more than just swollen faces and other ridiculous, outmoded effects. I look at the edges of this person, and nothing can convince me that that background is what is really behind them. I think this is green screen tech. Quay says McToon is insufferable. Yeah, McToon is objectively a bad person. And I say this because he had a debate with Quincy, the pilot, who doesn't believe the Earth is a ball. And he called the FAA and tried to get Quincy fired, try to have his pilot's license taken. That's McToon's passive-aggressive nature. I mean, that's just the worst thing in the world you could do to somebody. I don't agree with you, so I'm going to destroy your livelihood, destroy your dream, destroy your credibility. That's crazy. But these glurfs are insecure. But why are they so insecure? That's the thing. If somebody told me the sky is green, I'm not going to be bothered. I'm not going to stay up for 2 days debating with somebody if they're just wrong. But these individuals are really mad about people questioning their faith. And I say keep it up. And to me, this is also, it's comical. It's bad science fiction. And I don't care what the glurfs think anyway, since these are individuals who believe 100% of the fake news. They're in the box. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go through my notes. Trump goes home a martyr. Former president believes his own hype more than ever. Now, this matters. This is from The Atlantic. The Atlantic had predictive programming for Trump's ear getting clipped, the 47 and the bullet hole, just like Time and the golf course trouble cover. So if The Atlantic says Trump goes home a martyr, something's up. And it's really strange that at Tucson, you had 20 people go blind behind him. What is that about? Now, I mentioned this. I said, why is Trump telling Greg Gutfield, hey, come look at my ear. Why did Trump decide to make Gutfield the one to see the ear? So here's from Mediaite. President Trump claimed on Wednesday that he showed Greg Gutfield his bloody ear after being shot in the July assassination attempt. Recalling Gutfield the moment he was shot in the ear, he said, I knew something was wrong. It was a mess when I touched it. And then Gutfield said, do you remember when you showed it to me? You said, I know people aren't going to believe this, so Gutfield, come look at my ear at the convention. And Trump said, who am I going to show it to? They'll say it didn't exist. And he's a very talented guy, and he's very special. So Gutfield was able to see and verify it. And he said, I took the bandage off carefully and said, that's nasty. That's nasty. I kind of wanted to touch it, but I would have been tackled. And I thought that's interesting because he wasn't really shot. But why would Greg Gutfield be the one that Trump would pick to see the ear wound? I think it's some kind of an inside joke, and I'm not making fun, but it does look like Gutfield's ear was already shot with an AR-15 a long time ago. Just an ear thing, his ear. And I've noticed it. It's just signature. But now that I think about it, I don't know. Is Greg Gutfield's ear some kind of, I don't know. Am I reading too much into it? And this is not scary at all. Here's Roseanne Barr pointing a gun at the cameraman. It's a Colt 45 she got from Trump, and he signed it. And she's waving the gun around the room, pointing it in all directions. I'm going to play this. This is Roseanne Barr demonstrating the opposite of gun safety.
Because this is really cool. Look, I show everybody who comes to my house, but I'm going to show you. It's a gun, and it's signed by President Trump right here. That's Donald Trump, and it's a really cool gun. And
how many times does she point this at everybody in the room? Like, I would have hit the deck. I mean, I don't know if I'd even... Yeah, this is crazy. But this is Roseanne Barr waving a gun around. It says, never surrender. The case has the presidential seal on it. And so this hand reaches in, and I thought, okay, somebody with common sense is going to take that weapon away from her before she hurts somebody or shoots her cat. But no, they just said, wow, he signed it, and they handed it right back to her.
a pretty penny, but...
Show him the mug shot.
Oh, yeah, that's the mug shot.
There you go.
And now he's pointing it at her.
And,
Look, he's got a gun pointed at Roseanne's heart. Like, this is insane. Am I the only one who think this is crazy?
Presidential seal there.
That is insane. Like, fire him and disarm her. I mean, aren't there red flag laws to protect people from stuff like this? Like, where are the Second Amendment people on this? Like, isn't this problematic? Messianic Charlatan says, Diddy's crisis has been scripted since his No Way Out music video in the 90s. His tattoo is scripted too. Yeah, I tend to think so as well. It's all rumor, and until I see pictures or video, it didn't happen. Same thing with cats. And, it's like, no. And if any of that was true, then would it be safe to assume that Puffy sacrifices cats? Like, we didn't have any evidence. And when they did show us cats on a grill, they happened to be chickens. They had talons. I'm like, oh no, that's not a cat, that's a chicken. But they ignore that and they just keep sharing it. And they're like, oh look, now they're eating dogs. And you look and it's a lamb. It's a lamb on a spit. Let's see. Mizell says, holy basil, that's nuts. Copacetic says, finger on the trigger, shake my head, F out of here. Danger demo. Yeah, exactly. Marcel Ploger says it's eerie. Yeah, I think there's something with the ear. See, in the lore of the Masonic death resurrection rite, the death of Hiram Abiff, it's going to happen to Donald Trump, Hiram Abiff Tannen. When he has his head wound in resurrection, it's all symbolic, it's allegorical. And Hiram Abiff, King Solomon's architect with the blueprints, he was wounded in the chest, neck, and then a finishing wound on the top of his head. So the three wounds are symbolic. And I would say that the Trump wounds would also therefore be symbolic. So the ear wound. And I think that the mask on his mouth in 2020, they masked him up and they censored him from social media. That might have been part of this ritual. So you have the mouth, the ear, and the next is the eyes. And the eyes has already been foreshadowed. It's going to be in his right eye, but at the rally, all those people going blind, likely a part of it. Zin Vallis said he should have showed his ear to Gage Grosskreutz. Well, Gage Grosskreutz changed his name because of us. I remember we put out a flyer. We're like, we're going to give $1,000 to anyone who can go down to Kenosha and either shake his hand or twist his arm. And shortly after, he claims that there were people who were after him. And again, I don't think he was really shot in the arm. I think it was a squib. And it was well performed, well executed. But he changed his name to Paul Prediger. An equally unique name. Like, if you're going to go undercover, change your name to John Doe. Change your name to something Smith. But Paul Prediger after Gage Grosskreutz? No. And then what's worse, he changes his name to go undercover, and then somebody runs him over with an SUV, and he goes on the news, and he gets a GoFundMe account because somebody ran him over. And I'm like, wait, I thought you were undercover. Why are you going on the news and giving away your new name? Kind of like one of the Sandy Hookers did an interview with a total face, like mask, total disguise. And he's like, yeah, I have to wear this disguise because I don't want to be recognized. Well, now we recognize you. Okay, moving on. Again, Roseanne Barr is armed and presumably dangerous based on this video. Now, there was a scene that happened. This is outside a Trump rally where a group of Trump supporters drove ABC away. And I think this might be provocateur, and I'll explain why in a second. Now, that angry mob is MAGA. And of course, they believe in free speech, freedom of the press, and all that, freedom of religion, except for the left wing, except for the mainstream media, and except for Haitians. Like, this to me is ridiculous. I mean, attacking the media. But the reason they're doing this is because in the movie Civil War, the Trumpers were against the media. They were, in fact, the heroes of the movie Civil War, it was journalists. But you had anti-media MAGA types. And it kind of made the media itself into martyrs. The film shows the effects of war through the perspective of journalists on a cross-country road trip and how society would crumble. Now, one of the interesting facets of this terrible movie is the people who weren't watching the news didn't know there was a war going on. And there were several times where they make this point about how the people in the media have to witness these atrocities and people at home have the luxury of pretending it doesn't exist. And I was thinking about this, and it did make a strong statement about how disconnected we are from the facts on the ground. Now, the point they were making in the movie is we should care more. But what it tells me is we have a massive blind spot as long as we're outsourcing our perception to media. So here's the part I want to reference because I think we saw this happen today. One of the scenes portrays armed civilians in floral shirts, a reference to Bugaloo Boys, a group of American civilians, a militia, and they're executing captured federal soldiers. Another pivotal scene, they ask, what kind of American are you? And they ask one guy if he worked for Reuters. But they basically make the point here that the media is the enemy of the MAGA side, and that they were more or less martyrs for the rest of us. I mean, it's kind of a joke how they portrayed the media as martyrs, but if there is some kind of a contentious election, this would be the way it would play out. Trump's in the White House, and everything fractures until they're able to seize power. So that's kind of a bit of foreshadowing. There's so many ISS glitches, by the way, so we'll deal with this later. But I'm just letting you know, if you follow me on Twitter, IPS Insider, you will find that I'm spending a lot of time debating one person about a few clips, and I'm finding that these special effects might be compelling to a 5-year-old. It's actually embarrassing that they fall for it. And we do have a perfect example of Penn and Teller where they do this entire scene and they look like they're on the ISS, the way their cheeks are and their faces and the way they hold their shoulders. And you don't know till the end that they're entirely upside down and they're dropping things and these things fly up. But I'm glad we're at the point where we're talking special effects. This is where it needs to go. Because we're talking about a world where people are taking the screen literally without any sort of room for special effects and manipulation at that level. That's our perspective here, is that we're taking that into account with every news story. We mentioned this yesterday. This is the individual who chopped his father's head off because his father was FBI, Justin Moan. And this whole event was fake, obviously. In fact, somebody identified the severed head as a readily available prop you can buy on Amazon. It was unrealistic. But they give him some airtime here, and he's saying that the government betrayed America, and he was trying to make a citizen's arrest, and it was resisted. So he had every right to execute him. This is like QAnon crazy.
But I don't have that speech on me. I and a lot of other people around America believe that the federal government has betrayed America. They're destroying the country, and we have to do something to take our country back.
What does killing your father have to do with that?
Well, he was a federal employee and betrayed me. I was trying to perform a citizen's arrest. He resisted that citizen's arrest. It's lawful to use deadly force in that event.
All right. Sounds like Stu Peters. And Stu Peters was talking about this thing called the Extreme Event, which was canceled. But he was going to hold a conference to teach people how to do citizen's arrests. And he had a picture of himself walking down a forest road with a noose. And they canceled that event in advance. But another provocateur. But that is the rhetoric. That's where things are going. And they're doing this so that they can do psyops and blame you for it. Sean Diddy Combs' inmate claims he was rapper's sex slave. So this has a fascinating tie-in. This is a guy named Jonathan Audie, and he has this long video interview from jail where he's talking about how Diddy used him as a slave. But listen to this. He was arrested in 2018 after he opened fire inside Trump's National Doral Miami resort. He barged into the lobby of the golf club with an American flag while shouting at President Trump. He shot a chandelier before exchanging fire with cops, and then they shot him in the legs and took him into custody. So this guy ran into a Trump resort with the gun, opened fire, and they took him down. And it turns out, yeah, he worked for Diddy. So what does that mean? Jay Diggs says, even the reporter sounded like she was reading a line. Yeah, I'm glad you caught that. The interview seemed fake, unrealistic that they would do that. And the reporter sounded like she was reading a script, and she sounded like an actress, a new actress, like a student. Like there was just, that was not realistic. I'm glad you caught that because you can hear it. You can have an ear for fakery, just as you can see the fakery. You can tell by looking at some things. FBI showing up at people's homes for posting on social media. I don't think this is true. I think this is a psyop. And I think I could have a friend dress up like an FBI agent, knock on my door, and I could put it up online and say the feds came. It's like the new swatting. You're not getting enough attention online, claim you got swatted. It's the same thing. But now you're being swatted for mind viruses. Like, did you post this? I don't think this is true. So I go over to Richie from Boston's site to see, and unfortunately I can't listen to his words of wisdom because it's paywalled. and he needs my email address. And I don't want to give my information and get on a list. I don't want to be on that list. Okay, continuing. Still waiting for fallout regarding Joe Rogan. It's a pretty big deal that he completely flipped on the moon landing and nearly took Matt Walsh down with him. We were talking about exploding phones, and we found an example of predictive programming.
Yes. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Your phone.
This is from the movie Jackpot, and as you'll see here,
Hey, don't steal kids, y'all.
phones exploding, pants lit on fire, predictive programming. Now, I drew attention to this earlier, the predictive program thing, because I was on Reddit and I was following this thread about predictive programming just to see, where people are at with that. And this is a conversation that we've had a few times, but I want to just kind of point out, here's the basic take of it. I'm positing here that predictive programming, concurrent programming, is put there by the same people who fake the news. It's all one contiguous narrative. It's all one mass. It's one field. It's monolithic. That's how deep the control is. How else do you think you mind control billions of people? You take a top-down approach and infiltrate every single area. They gave this away in Fly Me to the Moon. They said, we have to find a way to make moon landings a part of someone's everyday life. Or Eric Holder. We have to make guns and gun violence an issue and brainwash people into looking at guns in a whole new way. So we're talking about brainwashing. So what's more likely? Mass brainwashing, or we live in a simulation? So here's the explanation that comes from this. And I'm going to read the Reddit post, and then we'll go from there. The Reddit post here is called Alternative Theory to Predictive Programming. So the idea of predictive programming is that they put things in movies to condition the population for future changes. I do think it has a grain of truth, but who are they, and how many movie directors, writers are a part of them? Second, what is the point? Why would an arsonist tell you what they're going to do and burn down your house? Third, what counts as predictive programming? How on point must something be to be considered such? With these inconsistencies, I've come up with my own theory about what goes on. And here's what he says. The universe hands out information and truthful predictions to people who make our media to reveal what they have planned for us without exposing the simulation. There is no conspiracy of hundreds of thousands of people required. So what the synchromystic explanation does, what simulation theory does, is it takes the culprits out of the picture. It would be like saying computer hacking is done by gremlins. No need to look for the hackers. And these guys are saying, don't look for the reality hackers because it's a simulation. The universe is inspiring James Cameron and the writers of The Simpsons and Tom Clancy and the Nolan brothers and every other major film writer, Jordan Peele, Obama, Barack Obama, Leave the World Behind. The simulation gave him some hints about future things. This is BS. The day Trump kicked off his campaign in Waco, Netflix had just put out the night before, Waco, American Apocalypse. This concurrent programming is so obviously tied to political agendas. Roe v. Wade overturned. Then you have Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, opening up with the scene of the Queen dying during childbirth because she wasn't allowed to abort the baby. Because the state, the kingdom, needed the boy more than her. Even though she's the most powerful woman in the kingdom, she's worth less than a male child. So that's why they had to take the baby out of her at the expense of her life. Well, that scene was directly related to the Roe v. Wade being overturned. It was completely barbaric, but it was concurrent. Then we have Donald Trump getting shot at. We have many examples of predictive programming, and some of it very recent. Some of it concurrent. Movie trailers, movie posters, Thine Ear Shall Bleed, Big Bloody Ear. We have the Harrison Ford being shot as a president in a theater in Captain America. And so going down the line, we're seeing here how the programming aligns with the news. And where in here do you insert the universe? The universe is inspiring them? Is that what we're saying? If you go with this argument, you must therefore agree with the statement that mass media is divinely inspired. Why do they do this? And then they kind of straw man it when he says that you wouldn't have to have hundreds of thousands of people. Well, when you look at the programming class, it works like this. The masses are programmed. That's the 99%. The programmers are 1%. And this would be elite entertainers, writers, directors, and actors. But even among those, the 1% are easily 95% brainwashed. They believe everything except for the one thing that they're involved in. There's no reason that they would all be in the know. It's super compartmentalized. Compartmentalization isn't new. Now he asks, how on point must something be? Well, Robert De Niro outside the courthouse ranting, and then he's in a movie where he plays a Trump-esque character ranting about illegal immigration, and he gets shot and dragged off the stage. That scene is repeated by Trump exactly. And we have many examples. We've made the case here that predictive programming is created by the news vendors. We've already solved this riddle. And going back to, no, there's no conspiracy, the universe is doing it, is lazy thinking. And it's fallacious. And it's absolutely wrong. And the reason for pointing this out is that people who fall for this are mystifying the news. And they get into all kinds of new age stuff. Like this guy says, I'm not going to read all their comments, but I think what's happening here, and listen how he explains it. People are writing fiction resembling events that are programmed to happen without knowing it. So they're arguing in favor of a simulation. Now, here's where they're right. They're correct in saying that we live in a simulation. They're wrong in thinking that the world is a simulation. No, the simulation is the map of the world. And we have been given a map that doesn't quite align. I mean, it aligns in all the ways where you interact with it, but just beyond your range of perception, it's augmented in all sorts of ways. And out of sight, out of mind, there's all kinds of things, hypotheticals, hyperstitions, weapons of mass destruction that don't exist, myths, big lies. So the map you have is faulty, and it's faulty because it's prefabricated. It contains prefabricated events, rather. So, for example, they did 2020 on us. Well, that was written in advance. We have loads of predictive programming for that. That was already going to happen. But they had to perform it in order to put it in the history books because they write the history day by day. And everything else just gets censored, ignored, eventually gets swept into the dustbins of history. And their version, their reality monopoly, is there for all time. So they're writing the news as a form of mass mind control, worldview synchronization, and domination. We've already been conquered. We have a one world religion. We have a one world government. It's all there. But you wouldn't see it, and you can't see it if you're not recognizing that the map isn't the territory. And the problem with these individuals is they think the map is the territory. They see these coincidental alignments with Netflix and reality as evidence of magic. They think it's magic. That's what they mean when they say it's synchromistic. It's unexplainable. There's powers involved, higher powers channeling through these directors and getting them to release this stuff in order to promote this leftist agenda. Because that's another aspect to it. It's all agenda driven. And I don't believe the universe is Antifa. I don't believe the universe would give us prophetic revelations through the artists of the day to warn us about future fake events. So the whole thing falls apart. But anybody here who's been listening to this channel for a while know that we've already debunked synchromysticism, but I'm noticing that there's a pushback against a thorough and rational understanding of what we're looking at. They don't want this. I would argue that synchromysticism and simulation theory are the final guardrails. These are the final guardrails before you arrive at an understanding of how media fakery works. These are planted ideas. So instead of recognizing that the map is not the territory, they want you to throw away the whole thing and just not even engage it objectively and rationally, but now introduce supercomputers and demiurges and a universe that likes to mess with the news. And one more point. The Donald Trump shooting event has had so much predictive programming built into it, going back so many years, that why would someone actually die? You know, these people are, a lot of the synchromystics are under the presupposition that stuff's really happening. Like, why would it warn you it's going to burn your house down? But, you know, it does, I don't know, it all falls apart to me. It falls apart on so many levels here. I guess it would make more sense if these events were real. But I just find it weird. It's like, how can you consider this to be a benign thing? The universe, if it's warning us about things that I don't, it had the power to stop, obviously, if it's engineering these things. Like, how does this God work? The God of psyops. Someone explain it to me. Yes, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, says NDB. Yeah, you could throw out the simulation and stay in the real world. Leon Dion says, Audi Guy's Secret Service interview detailing Diddy's stuff after being arrested lasted 33 minutes. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that when I started reading the article. I didn't know he had a Trump connection. So I'm like, wow, this guy who's dishing out some details on Diddy, who was one of Diddy's sex slaves, shot up one of Trump's resorts in 2018. I don't even recall hearing about that story. Elephant Tusk says, Tim, do you think they'll ever bless us with a theatrical film about George Floyd? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to have to, if it's not already in the works. I think Steven Jackson should play George Floyd. You know, Floyd's twin. Derek Chauvin as himself, if he gets out on time. The thing is, we've already had some movies based on it. You know, Jordan Peele put out the movie Nope, and it was based on the George Floyd event.
Thank you for feeding the cracked in thirst. The IPS appreciates the support.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thirst for Truth. Appreciate the support there. And looks like Godzilla's back in the house. Got the noise and the visuals, so I'll put that back on the screen. Yeah, Nope. Nope was based on the George Floyd thing, which was hard to, it didn't make sense at first because the movie's about people witnessing a UFO. How does it connect? Well, it's about the spectacle and the power of the spectacle. And I think it has to do with the transmission of a mind virus. That a powerful piece of propaganda can spread like a contagious virus and cause a lot of people to act out. For example, the movie begins with the raging chimp killing people. And so I think the George Floyd event, you could look at that 8-minute and 40-second video as a mind virus, as a rage virus, something with the potential to trigger a lot of people. And this is a reoccurring theme. Again, the whole angry, murderous chimp, bad monkey, monkey man, the 80-foot tall monkey god statue coming out just after the WHO declares the monkeypox to be a global threat on the day Bad Monkey comes out. We talked about this before, but another example. It's not a simulation. It's not the universe aligning these things, and we just happen to be noticing it. No, I refuse to believe that mass media is divinely inspired, that these metascriptors are more than propagandists. James Cameron is a propagandist. Stanley Kubrick, propagandist. Tom Clancy, propagandist. The Nolan brothers, propagandists. All down the line. These are not divinely inspired mouthpieces for the universe unwittingly conveying prophecy. If that were true, they would talk about it. They're like, hey, I wrote this book that predicted 9/11 in 2020. Or my book predicted this. Wow, I must be psychic. I don't see, and CJ, Synchromorpheus brought this up. He's like, where are the artists taking credit for their movies that perfectly predict the future. Where's the director of Machete? I called it. You rarely see this. And that's because they're part of the programming process. Chinese zoo admits that pandas are just painted dogs. Yeah, I've seen that one. I don't know if the story is true. They did this thing, but it's being misconstrued. I have to point out, the fake panda psyop, it doesn't bother me, but I want to just describe it for what it is. The people who say pandas are fake are low information disbelievers, like low info non-belief. And low info non-belief is just as bad as I believe it because I saw it on TV. Oh, I believe it because I saw it on TV. I don't believe it because I saw it on TV. Both these statements are wrong. Our perspective here is I don't believe it because the bulging vein in the forehead, bad special effects, CGI glitchery, it looks bad. Outdated special effects from Final Cut Pro 4, like whatever. We're pointing out information that leads us to doubt what they are presenting as anything other than a psyop, a hoax, a lie, a visual lie. But we have a nuanced understanding of it. And it's ironic that we know more about the news we don't believe in than the people who believe it. The believers in mass media news are the least informed people on earth. They're just like, oh, a headline. On my side of the fence, I believe it. That side of the fence, I don't believe it. Saying you don't believe in pandas is a very weak claim, and it's tantamount to an argument from incredulity and ignorance. And these are both unforgivable. Like, I don't believe it could exist because it looks so unreal. Yeah, your personal incredulity isn't an argument against its existence. I find it hard to believe that people could accept JFK as their savior and all the other QAnon nonsense. But it's not an argument against it. I mean, incredulity, personal incredulity, doesn't weigh very much. But then ignorance is the other part of it. How many zoos have you contacted? How many attempts have you made? How many experts have you called? Have you talked to any biologists? Perhaps go to a university and ask if you can find any textbooks that show skeletons of pandas. There are so many holes in their theory. It's just basically it's a ignorant statement. But it's part of a TikTok conspiracy theory. Like, this person finds a few cherry-picked videos. But this is an important thing to recognize, the phenomenon. What they do is they show you 5 videos where they look fake, and they show you a video of a person in a panda costume. Now, if your frame of reference is that, yeah, you might say, okay, these are fake. That's how the media works. They give you a limited frame of reference. They lie by omission. There are too many examples of this, and you could argue that you could fake a panda bear. You could have somebody in a panda suit, so they're fakeable, yes. But are they fakeable at scale? At the scale at which they exist? No. And you don't see anybody testing their theories when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, go hug a panda bear. No, a panda bear will bite your feet off. I mean, they're savage. They're sadistic. And one more thing. The birds aren't real was a psyop created by Parkland High School students in order to make people calling school shootings look crazy. So when I see somebody offering a low info, non-belief, like a conspiracy theory that's based on very low information, just rejecting something like, oh, birds aren't real. Well, dissect one. You know, it's humorous in a way, but we have to remember that this is how they discredit people. This is how they discredit ideas. This is how they discredit media criticism itself. So I'm not part of low information disbelievers. It's just easy and it's lazy. I would consider, just to mention one, Dave J., low info disbelief. A shooting happens, he says, it's all fake, nobody died. And I'm like, well, what's your basis for this? No basis, just reflexive. No, reflexive non-belief is not skepticism. It doesn't go far enough. We're informed. Informed disbelief. We're fomenting a culture of non-believers here. Elephant Tusk says, is it possible the fakery is to keep a certain part of the population over-satiated so that if something real happens, they don't react? I would say no, because they're never going to do anything real, because everything that we would be expecting, every sort of big deal, every calamity, is rooted in some kind of falsehood, a construct, something that doesn't actually exist. Like, they're not going to nuke us for real. They're not going to, at any point, it's not going to, quote, go kinetic. This is a line I hear. Some people say, okay, you have a point. They fake some things here and there, but it's going to go kinetic. Don't relax. You should be worried. You should be paranoid. You should be screeching at the top of your lungs about 9/11 on the street corners. I'm like, no. No, that's how the mind war works. The purpose of the mind war is to get you into a defensive posture. You're crouching, waiting to be smacked again. And I'm not in that posture. I'm not waiting to get smacked. I don't have a helmet on for space junk. I don't have a mask for chemtrails. I don't believe in any of the mainstream phobias either. Elephant Tusk says, did you do the mic reset? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is there a problem with my mic? Just one more month, by the way. One more month. And we'll see some progress with this lawsuit versus Goldfinch and Google. I don't know how it's going to go exactly. I'm pretty sure I know. But however it ends up, it's going to be about a month before things start accelerating, because Garrett Ziegler tried to have a suit dismissed. He's sued by Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden sued him for hacking his computer. Behind Garrett Ziegler is the guy I'm suing. Well, they tried to dismiss the suit, and the judge said it was a frivolous attempt because you can't use anti-SLAPP on something federal or some technicality they should have known. So it was a waste of the court's time. And it costed Hunter $18,000 in attorney's fees. So what the judge did as a punitive measure is he passed the $18,000 on. So Goldfinch/Ziegler have to pay $18,000. Both of these individuals are going to be the center of a lot of attention very soon, and all of the people working with Ziegler are going to be doxxed. Specifically Goldfinch. The instant he is doxxed, and this is irrespective of this present case against him, the instant that he's named as someone represented by Garrett Ziegler's attorneys, I will be able to serve him papers. And I have a collectible damage claim for cyber squatting. It's a 32-page damage claim. I'm probably going to update it, but it's actionable. It doesn't require a trial. It's just a collection. Sort of like a insurance claim if somebody hits your car. It's all just perfunctory. All I have to do is just go through the process. There's no like debating it. And that's going to happen. That's going to be collectible very soon. So even before I win in court against Goldfinch, I'm already going to be making moves to collect, to have him, I guess a couple of things have to happen first. He'll have to disclose his assets, writ of execution. But yeah, it's all going to move forward very soon. And once he's exposed to the public, he's going to be roasted. He's going to be burned at the stake for a lot of reasons. So can't wait for that to happen. But just so you know, it's coming up. Okay, so let's continue here. Alternative to predictive programming. Nope, predictive programming exists. And concurrent programming exists. And reinforcement programming in the form of made-for-TV movies to reinforce the programming exists. And all of it is created by man. And you cannot argue that the crisis actors are divinely inspired. That the crisis directors, the PSYOP directors, that the movies that we're seeing that have these hints about future news events are somehow revealing this stuff because the universe wants us to know. Like these various simulation theories need to go. Mandela effect needs to go. And I think it's important to, to target these things because the adherents of these false beliefs will find their way to the parallel media. They will remove the shackles. They'll put down the Kool-Aid. They'll cease chasing current things and put down the hopium pipes, and hopefully they'll just jump out off the stage, get onto the raft. I'm not sure what this is. This is Donald Trump Jr. I have a 30-second clip, and I don't even care what he has to say. I was just analyzing his body language, and every other word he uses, he gives it scare quotes. So it's almost like he's like imitating a bat, like flapping his wings. Like he's always got his arms like his father does the accordion.
Says they're being civil.
Well, Trump does the accordion thing, with his hands wide open, and then he's expanding and contracting an accordion. Don Jr. does this it's really kind of weird. His scare quote thing and his little fingers, like, what is that? It's very distracting. Nothing could be that ironic. And again, that's just, it's overdoing it. All right, well, I don't have a lot more time tonight, but we do have a lot of time tomorrow for Infinite Plane Saturn Day. A lot of big things coming. So tomorrow, I believe, tomorrow or Monday, I'm going to order 50 copies of this, the IPS Insider. We had issues with the first one. I didn't reach the minimum order needed, but I didn't want to cut it down to size. I'm keeping this one 32 pages. I'm already working on issue 2. So this is September's issue. October's will be out on time, and you will be able to order these likely on Monday. So just a heads up, you'll be the first to know. I'll probably make them available for order as soon as they're here in studio. I don't want to do pre-orders. I want to have them physically here. I don't want to leave anything open to chance. I want to make sure this goes smoothly, and I think it will. I want to see if there's anything else that we missed. We talked about Joe Rogan flipping on the moon. That's big. We're still going to have to monitor that situation. Interesting times. A lot of people, look, so many people are noticing these mind-blowing connections between mass media propaganda and future news events. Like, don't you think that Trump would say, what the hell is this? That somebody in his orbit. I mean, you do have Laura Loomer bringing it up, but people just dismiss this. Well, what is this? Is this evidence of a plot to assassinate him? No, it's evidence of foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, the literary technique, is what we're seeing with predictive programming, not false flags, not revelation of the method, not evidence of a simulation. So I hope we've debunked that whole premise, and I don't know if there are enough synchromystics for me to care about really beating that one anymore. I'm more interested in overturning the Mandela effect. Not that we need a lot of Mandela effectees, because every mind virus that you're susceptible to reveals a vulnerability. Chemtrail believers are vulnerable to loaded questions and appeals to ignorance. Mandela effectees are vulnerable to retroactive interference, loaded questions, and the either-or fallacy, not to mention a desire to belong to a group of people. But there is just various reasons why people fall for different psyops. And that's what I'm ultimately aiming at, your operating system. I'm not trying to promote a belief system. I don't care to tell people what to believe. What we're promulgating here is an operating system. Like, do you need a belief system? Well, no. The world of believers is the world of deception. You need to enter into the world of knowers. And the knowers are a small fraction because of the design of this system. And the programmers are the knowers, but even among the programmers, it's compartmentalized. So we have a distinct advantage here. We're not compartmentalized, and we can go ahead and say, yeah, I prefer to know things rather than be a believer, which means that oftentimes we're stuck with non-belief. And I'm okay with that. Not believing all these lies, not believing false explanations, opens you up to curiosity. Now you have gaps that you want to fill. Now you recognize that there's a false explanation, and there's obviously something compelling behind it, something that they're hiding. So life gets more interesting when you stop believing the lies and you seek the truth. And truthers are believers in alt media. They're not real truthers. It's a misnomer. Messianic Charlatan says Donald Trump is La Vida Loca Ricky Martin. Donald Trump Jr., Ricky Martin. Now let me look at that. There's actually a video of it. So it's probably true. Let's take a look. Kind of like Trump comparing himself to Elvis. I don't know. Maybe. I can kind of see a vague resemblance. But when it comes to these claims of this person is that person, you need to have more than one angle. Like, I'm pretty sure that Neil Armstrong used to be Yuri Gagarin. I'm pretty sure of that one. I'm not sure about Clark Gables becoming President Eisenhower. There's some kind of connection there I think is kind of valid. All right, well, we'll continue this conversation tomorrow. I think we have oh, nice. Angst G says JLB catches himself doing the Trump accordion thing. Yeah, I'm cool with the Trump accordion thing. I don't know about the scare quotes. Scare quotes, it looks crazy and kind of bitchy. It's kind of a weird thing to do. Just like out of every word, just trying to overemphasize it. There's no way this Trump clown show ends anytime soon. Like, I see the predictive programming for Kamala. But at the same time, there's no way this thing can just stop. There's no way that November 5th Trump is over. It's just the Trump train and all this narrative, all the predictive programming, Biff 10 and 60 years of Trump predictive programming, it's not over yet. And I think that civil war might offer us the best preview of what's to come. Trump in the office and left-wing insurrection, Antifa rising up, and then it ends with this event that we've all been watching for. But 10/4, Joker coming out, that's the next date that I'm looking at as potentially very interesting from this perspective. I'm watching The Penguin. I haven't seen anything that stood out as predictive programming, but I am finding some thread with Bad Monkey, Voodoo, and Angry Voodoo Priestess. There's some kind of theme here, and the fact that it connects to P. Diddy and the Haitian Revolution. That's all kind of new to me as well, so we'll see where this all goes. Anyway, thanks for joining. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. This is Autohoaxology by Symbia.
I don't believe in chemtrails, I don't live in Trutherville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, Autohoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind age. I stepped away from the game entirely, I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely, I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading Autohoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading Autohoaxology, nothing can bother me. Autohoaxology, won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading Autohoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I stop the facts of deceiver, demanding burdens of the proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely, I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely, I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading Autohoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading Autohoaxology, nothing can bother me. Autohoaxology, won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading Autohoaxology, suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction.